What is going on YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. Today on the table in front of us is, well, I think it's probably after the FH11. This is my favorite budget Ganzo / Firebird knife. This is the FH41, and this is a stellar pocket knife. It really is. So the D2 that Ganzo is doing is coming out very, very well. I have never had an issue at all with any color appearing on these. Now, I know D2 is not the most weather-resistant on the planet, but Ganzo does a great job, which is funny because they do a good job on their 440C as well. This particular knife has got an ergonomics to it that is, well, it's just about perfect, actually, for a smaller knife for me. We've talked about this before. The handle on this doesn't have any weird shaping to it. In other words, it's sort of a rectangle, and that means that for my big old meat hooks, it is a marvelous fit. When I hold this knife and I hold it tight, there's no wiggle at all. If I get my thumb in there, it is locked in like crazy. You can come forward on the blade for fine work. This is marvelous for push cuts and draw cuts. This is just a really good pocket knife, and it's very attractive. There's grain in the G10. Everything else is smooth and perfect. This thing came out of the box, and mind you, this is 29 bucks, I think, on Amazon right now. This thing came out of the box flawlessly, and that's saying something. At this price point, are you kidding me? So here's the thing. What do you get? Well, as I said, the party piece for this knife is the action, as with all the FH series knives. It's a relatively light blade, but with a little bit of wiggle, it is totally drop shut. It flips open with great, it just snaps open. It's really good. There is no blade play. There is no lock rock. We are at probably 25% lockup, if that much. So there's plenty of room to go there. It's got a really nice cutout. You can access the lock bar really easily. This is an entirely one-handed knife. If you're right-handed, sorry, no lefty love on this one at all. But that's the way it goes sometimes. It has a relatively small flipper that works with push button or light switch. Either way, this thing pops out like it means it, which means the detent is very good. Now, I'm going to try to break this detent loose. I've never actually tried this with this knife because I don't do that a lot. Let's see what happens. Yep, you can snap this thing open. But I got to tell you, I gave this thing a serious shove just now. Under normal, yeah, it's not going to go anywhere. But if you really give it a flick, you can get it to break the detent. So we'll call the detent moderate. It's not hard. It's not floppy soft. But it's probably a little lighter than it could be. That's okay. I've never done that before, so now I'm sitting here kind of wondering what to do about it. And the answer is nothing. It's a $30 pocket knife. It is one of the best $30 pocket knives out on the market as far as I'm concerned. Recently, I've shared a number of my little Ganzos with you, and I love them each. Even the one, well, here it is. Even the 21, as I mentioned, which is beautiful to look at, but isn't really shaped for my hand. This one has a beautiful blade. Very simple in design and very elegant. Lots of belly for cutting, a nice flat for push cuts, marvelously stabby tip. The handle itself is, even with this pocket clip, which has a lot of rise to it. Look at that. Big, thick pants have no problem with this, and the snap is good, the ramp is good. Look, for $30, I know I've said this before in my Ganzo videos, my Firebird videos, but I'm old enough to remember when you couldn't get this much knife for $100. You couldn't get D2. You couldn't get G10. You certainly couldn't get, it wouldn't be running on ball bearings. The pocket clip would have been up here. It would have been tipped down. This is so much knife for budget. Oh, sorry, check out the camera a little bit there. All of these are so good for the money. Let's go ahead and get some size specs on here just so we know what we're talking about. We've got 1, 2, 3, almost 3.5 inches of cutting surface. Just about, a little short of 3.5. The overall blade is 3.5 inches. It has a marvelous choil on it for sharpening, but nothing in the way of the cutting path. The overall knife is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, just about 8 inches long even. It is exceptionally comfortable in hand and very lightweight. And the blade, again, this high flat grind, you know, this isn't as thin as some of the knives I own, but it's very slicey. They start with a relatively thick piece of D2 and work their way down to a really nice working edge. I don't sharpen these hardly ever. I mean, I don't use them that much anymore, but when I did, for my daily use, boxes and rope and string and tape and packaging, whatever, if for any reason, and it didn't happen often, these started to feel even remotely like they weren't cutting as well, a quick run on a strop would put this thing right back into slicing category. I don't think I've ever actually sharpened this one. I would, in fact, I've stropped it. I don't know if that means it's not the factory edge anymore or not, but I think it is. This is really very good. It's got a little jimping here for your thumb. This matters. You know, if you're going to have a smaller knife, it needs to fit your hand. That is a really critical and important part of knife making, at least for me. Again, here's the 21, which is very similar in dimensions, a little tiny bit smaller. But because of this shape down here on the handle, this is not nearly as comfortable, not even close as comfortable in hand as its brother here, the FH41. This is a stellar pocket knife. I know I said that. I got to work on my language. I say stellar too much. It's got a really nice lanyard hole back here, if that's your thing. I don't lanyard, but some people are really into it. I don't know if you can see that or not. There we go. God, this is good. So in a recent video, I mentioned that, you know, people ask me all the time, how come I don't do negative videos? I'm going to reiterate what I said in that other video. The knives I share with you, with the exception of a few that come from the Apex Pass-Around group, are entirely knives from my own collection. And that means you aren't going to hear about knives I don't like because I don't get knives that I don't like. These Ganzos, these Firebirds, remain, as far as I'm concerned, one of the all-time great budget option pocket knives. And as I mentioned, being old enough to remember when budget meant, you know, 12, 15, 18 bucks at a gas station for a chunk of pot steel running on who knows what, made out of garbage, these are so good. For those of you who come into the knife world, while these are available, you're never going to understand that, not really. Gas station knives are a bit of a joke, and in fact, people are using that phrase for something else now. But when I was young, I would have killed for something like this in this price range. I mean, this is so good. It really is. So here's where I'm going to go with this. I got a few more of these to share, and I will. I say this in every video, so I'll say it really quick. I know Ganzo has a bad reputation. They used to make clones. They still do, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. If you don't want them to make those knives anymore, buy these, because I assure you they will go where the money is. So if we want them to continue making excellent knives in good materials, in unique designs, we buy them. They'll find out that's where they're going to make their money. That's what they'll do. We can't change what has happened in the past. There are a million companies with terrible histories. We can, however, inspire them to do better in the future by voting with our wallets and making sure that they know that we want stuff like this. They're not going to go away, and since they're not going to go away, what we can do is make sure they understand that this is the kind of stuff we want from them. That's my rant. Thanks for listening. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. No, I'm sorry. But that's my feelings on this, right? These are very good. This is an excellent entry knife in the knife world for people who are just getting into it, or for people that are deeply into it and want to have knives around that they can just chuck in a backpack or hand off to a friend or take out in crappy conditions, or any circumstance where a really expensive pocket knife, even a small one, I mean, look, this is my Gent. This is $100. Is it better than this? Absolutely. I don't want to lose this. I don't want anything to happen to this. I don't even want to hand this to somebody who thinks they know how to use knives. But this one, I don't care. I mean, granted, if they're so bad that it looks like they're going to stab themselves, I'm not going to hand it to them anyway. But this is what budget knives are for. And to get one that is this good, and this is really good, at this price range, this available, you can order 10 of these off Amazon right now. You could order any of the Ganzo Firebirds off Amazon right now. They're all available all the time. There's no waiting list. You have to go hunt for them. If you need a good pocket knife and don't want to spend a ton of money, take a look at these. I do not think you will be disappointed. Let's do the size comparison just for the fun of it. Here, of course, is the, by comparison, very large Ratna Model 1. Now, if we line the blades up, we will discover that, again, the Ganzo has a little tiny bit more cutting area. Not much, just a little bit more cutting surface, and it's much smaller in the pocket. This is just a big-handled knife. It really is. Let's compare it against some of its competitors. What do we have? Oh, let's bring out the LCK because it happens to be on the table. This is a Ruger that costs about the same amount of money. This is HCR13 MOV. It is not G10, I don't think. Either one of these is fine. This is a really good pocket knife, but, well, this one's better. At least for me. Women Carry Knives loves this one above all these other ones because of its size. And I understand that. But as far as I'm concerned, at the price range, 29 bucks or right around there, 27, 29 bucks, you cannot beat this with a stick. And if you don't like this one, you know, get this one. I mean, really. And if you're not afraid of a little 440C, you can grab that one. That's my point. There is a huge variety of knives coming out of Firebird, or Ganzo, in a myriad of different styles, made of good materials and done well in a way that has never really been before. This is a marvelous time to get into pocket knife collecting. That's the reason this is still in my collection. I have moved on many knives, but these Ganzos just stick around because I love them. I really do. All right, guys, I guess that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the FH41 by Ganzo/Firebird. It is an excellent pocket knife in D2, running on bearings. It is G10 with milled steel liners. They're nested liners, too, which is really a nice touch. If you enjoy this knife or any of my knives, feel free to ask me about them or talk about them down in the comments below. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe on your way out. I would love to have you here on a regular basis. I know, I say this at the end of every video. Sorry if it gets boring, but I mean it. I'd love to have more folks on board. For those of you that are already on board, thank you so much. Your subscriptions mean the world to me. I love to have you here. We'll see you next time.